Hey, it's Brock here from Rock Hill Farms, and today I'm going to cut down this dangerous leaning tree that actually leans and curves so far that by the top it's completely horizontal. I do a lot of tree felling videos, and I get comments all the time that on a leaning tree it's easy because you just cut from the back and it's already going to fall that way. Well, that is a very dangerous misconception. So today, as I cut this tree down, I want to show you why this is so dangerous and what I'm going to do to make it safer. Now, one question I'm sure I'll get is why I'm cutting this tree down at all. Well, it's my land and I have to make decisions about what to do with managing the bigger trees and the undergrowth and everything else. And if you look right here, there are a couple of smaller oak trees. I'm going to take the healthier tree from here and leave it and let it occupy the space that leaning tree is currently occupying. There's another oak tree just on the other side of it that I want to keep. And we're going to take down the one that's got dead branches and all that lean. If you think about a tree like this, that's got that lean and that curve, you've got gravity over here on this weight up on the top, and that gravity is pulling down on that, and it's trying to uproot the tree or break it. My job as a tree feller is to prevent it from falling until I am ready. But if you make a small notch in the front and then you start cutting from the back, as you're cutting in, there will come a point when your hinge is probably 4 or 5 inches wide when the weight overhead causes that to snap. This tree is about 18-inch diameter, so it should have a 2-inch hinge roughly. Your hinge should be about 10% of the diameter of the tree. When it falls, it should have a 2-inch hinge. But if you're cutting from the back, it's going to fall before it gets to a 2-inch hinge. And what happens when that happens, when it falls before your hinge is set, that hinge is not going to just snap off. It can split and run up the tree, and it's called a barber chair. I've had it happen before. It's one of the most dangerous things that can happen in tree felling. Now, we'll get into the cutting process in a minute, but first I want to take some precautions because our concern is that this tree splits in half and barber chairs. So one thing I'm going to do to try to prevent that is put chains around it. Put the first chain down kind of low, I'll put another one a little higher. Okay, so I've made one loop around the tree that's tight. The second loop is just on there so that the chain doesn't dangle down and get in the way of the saw. So now as we get ready to make our face cut, you normally make a face cut to remove any strength from this side of the tree so that the tree is more likely to fall this way. We have no concern about getting the tree to fall this way. That's already happening. So we're going to make a very small face cut. Now, why do we need a face cut at all if it's already falling that way? Well, you don't want to be messing around with this sapwood on the outside. You want all of your decision making to be made at a little bit thicker point of the tree where you have some actual heartwood on the tree. So we are going to cut in, I don't know, 3 inches or so on our face cut. We have a clean cut down here at the bottom with no Dutchman. Now what I want to do is cut out just a little bit on the center of this hinge so that when this decides to fall, it can't split up the middle because the middle isn't really there anymore. Here, cutting down trees is really dangerous. And I don't want anyone to try to take what I say as advice to go down and cut down a dangerous tree. You need some personal experience and some hands-on training and things like that before you start any type of a really dangerous activity like this. So now I'm going to come in behind my face cut and I'm going to establish a hinge using a bore cut. And I'm going to set that to about 2 inches wide. And once I have a 2-inch hinge across the middle of it, then I'm going to start cutting back. Whenever I get about 3 or 4 inches left, I'm going to call that my trigger, and I'm going to leave a thick trigger. Then I'm going to go around behind and just nip the trigger from the back. So as you look at the stump and you look at the initial cut I made and then the cut that took out the majority of the hinge, then I made my bore cut, the tree was left held by 3 legs. You had one good sized leg here, another good sized leg here, and then a large trigger on the back. And those 3 legs held the tree pretty secure. It probably would have stood like that as long as I needed it to. But at that point, this can't barber chair, this can't barber chair. The only thing that can happen is the back can break out. So then I came in below my bore cut and cut that trigger off. I probably shouldn't have left quite that much trigger, but my theory is the harder the lean and the more weight overhead, the bigger your trigger should be. Because I've been doing cuts like this before and left a thinner hinge, like 2 inches. And as I was walking around the back, that 2 inches just ripped off. Because again, that's bark in the first inch and sapwood. So that it doesn't have that kind of strength. What a beautiful tree. People think because I cut them down, I don't love trees. I love trees. Like I said, the replacement for this tree is right there. And it's coming up, and there's another one right there. And sometimes you got to remove the big ones so the smaller ones have a place to go. As you look at this, I made mistakes. This was slanted too much. My bore cut was a little too high. My trigger might have been a little bit too low. I probably could have come just slightly further forward, but it's all a learning experience, and you learn on the job. And you know, this was a successful tree felling. So I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.